Valentine's Day, and of course I'm doing it. I'm making an Ellowyne and Rufus video on Valentine's because what's better not for this precious little hopeless romantic we have, Rufus Rutter. I come bearing the gift of a video essay. So this is going to be my first ever short form, meaning less than an hour long video essay. So I hope it's good. I've still got a lot to learn, but I've worked really hard on the script and I hope you really like it. So I want to talk about the ship of Ellowyne Wilde and Rufus Rutter and why I think they're such a good couple. I love them so much, and today really seems, like I already said, the perfect day. It's Valentine's. Rufus has tried to confess his feelings on Valentine's before in the past, and it didn't go too well. But regardless, it's still a very good day to make this video. So, happy Valentine's. Treat yourself. Spend time with the one you love, or your best friends, or yourself. Because, I mean, you don't even have to have a partner or even really spend time with people to have a good Valentine's. I've been single 20 out of the 22 Valentines of my life, and I still really love Valentine's. So, I mean, holidays are really just what you make them, so definitely keep that in mind. And, I mean, I'm sure your Valentine's is going pretty good because if you're watching me, or you're watching me after Valentine's, and you're thinking about Valentine's. So, yes, you don't have to have a partner to have a good Valentine's. But regardless of all this, Ellowyne Wilde should not be single this Valentine's. She should be with Rufus Rutter. And I'm going to tell you why. So, I know a lot of you right now, there's probably at least a few people out there saying, "No, Katie, Rufus is a nice guy and all, but Ellowyne just doesn't like him back like that, and that's okay. You can still ship them and everything, but canonically, Ellowyne just doesn't like him back." And to that, I've got to say, no. I've seen a few people saying this. I've actually seen a lot of people saying this, and I really think this is like a big misunderstanding in the lore because no, they're not. They're a very good couple, and I'm pretty sure maybe they were really intended to be a couple, or I don't know. I'm not going to say too much. I'm just going to let y'all listen to this video. So, if it's not already obvious by the fact that this video exists and, you know, all of this, I'm a huge Rufus Rutter and Ellowyne Wilde shipper. I'm a diehard Ellofuser. That's what I'm calling it. Ellofus is the ship name of Ellowyne and Rufus. And I've been in the Ellowyne fandom for about a year and a half now. The old Wild Imagination side of Ellowyne for about a year or so. And I think I've done a lot of research and stuff. And I think I've learned a lot about her and her friends. Also, if you didn't know, I'm the person that made that 3-hour-long Ellowyne iceberg. And I'm always posting about the lost media and stuff. So if you have any of the lost media I don't have, please let me know or know anything about it. It would mean a lot to me. And during the time I've been in the Ellowyne fandom, although it hasn't been that long, I've recovered almost all of her missing diary entries, collected tons of the old Wild Imagination catalogs, and accessed oh so many old Ellowyne Wilde fan websites and stuff like that. I lost track of my script. You'll have to bear with me. I'm new at this. Alright, so, and one thing I learned about Ellowyne is about her old friend Rufus Rutter. This guy right here, and this guy, and this guy. I've got 3 of them, and I really love Rufus. I think he's precious, and we don't get to see too many guy dolls like him, so I think that's super cool. But one thing I've come across is I've seen a lot of people who really don't like Rufus, and especially the ship of Ellowyne and Rufus, and this is kind of odd to me. And I've also found this weird phenomenon where sometimes you can like mention Rufus, and then there's like a 20% chance that someone's just gonna like randomly talk about how much they don't like him and they think he looks weird and you're just talking about your doll. So I don't think Rufus gets the respect that he deserves, and that's another reason why I'm making this video. Also, just a heads up, I'm also working on another video, so I'm definitely gonna have an Ellowyne Iceberg Part 2 coming out. Maybe another video that has to do with that, maybe. And I also am gonna have a video coming later in the year, probably more like summer, maybe even like fall, beginning of winter, but it should be 2026, called In Defense of Rufus Rutter, Defending Ellowyne Wilde's Male Friend 18 years too late. And that one's either going to be a banger or really, really unwatchable, and I'm not so sure which one yet, but it will be one or the other. And now, before I ramble too much or give you too much more, other knowledge, because we've got a lot to talk about here, I'm going to tell you the thesis I came up for this video, and we'll move on with it. Thesis. Ellowyne Wilde and Rufus Rutter are a strong couple because they have shared values, choose to see each other beyond looks and emotional struggles, and if you actually read the stories, I'm pretty sure the subtext that Ellowyne likes Rufus back, but just won't admit it to herself, is pretty clear. Now, I know that's controversial, as pretty much everyone I've talked to tells me that Ellowyne doesn't reciprocate Rufus's feelings, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm not just going to be pulling these theories and information stuff out of mid-air. All of this information is going to be coming from Ellowyne Wilde's therapy sessions I was able to recover, and the things like the poem cards and the magazines and archives from the Wilde, mostly just archives, some stuff that came somewhere from the Wilde Imagination website, I was able to access through the Wayback Machine. When you're coming up with stories for your dolls, if that's how you like to enjoy your dolls, like me, I like to enjoy my dolls in a lot of different ways. I love photography, I love dressing them, and another thing I love a lot is just storylines, coming up with my own stories and photo stories and stuff. You can come up with whatever story you want, you can put any characters together, you can come up with anything, but this video is just going to be focusing on the canon and pretty much the existing storyline for these dolls, and the Ellowyne Rufus stuff in there that I think is commonly misunderstood or people forgot maybe, but I'm going to be focusing on the 3 main points I talked about before in my thesis, like it's an English class but more fun. And at the end of the video, I will share how I interpret Ellowyne and Rufus and why they mean so much to me. Why don't we move into our main topics? So the first one we have is shared values. Okay, so one of the main things I love about Ellowyne, other than her incredibly quirky fashion sense, is her personality. Ellowyne is actually kind of hard to understand as a character, and that's only made worse by her incredibly difficult to access diary entries and things. But Ellowyne is overall an incredibly kind and thoughtful person. She spends a lot of time in her head, deeply thinking and reflecting on things, and has chronic ennui. I feel like this is like the main thing everyone knows about her, other than like her fashion and stuff. But it's a really big part of her story, and it like affects her life a lot, because that's difficult to have. She's kind of has like a lot going on, and she's just really stuck in that like teenage, young adult, trying to figure out herself phase, her family, just becoming an adult, and all the stuff that happens at that time when you're like transitioning between teenager and adult. And she just spends a lot of time in her own head, reflecting on her thoughts and stuff, and for the most part, she's happy there. It's been said she's not necessarily sad, just bored. She's very melancholy, and I feel like she's kind of the kind of person who's kind of easily misunderstood just because of the way she kind of appears, because she has like resting sad face and everything, but she's overall very kind, quirky, and just a girl who's finding her way. While she looks fabulous in the most quirky, amazing way, and we love her for that, even if she struggles a bit from time to time. She gets tired easily and needs lots of social rest time. Ellowyne has many great friends. Prudence, Rufus, Lizette, Nema, Pin, put a pin in him, we're going to talk about him more later, and her friend to me, Amber, too. And one thing I found to be incredibly true when reading Ellowyne's old diary entries is that Ellowyne is an incredible friend, but she wouldn't necessarily say that about herself. Ennui makes everything harder, and it's a lot harder to be a good friend when you just feel down and depressed and just all the time, but Ellowyne tries so hard, and it's so evident as you read her stories, and especially look into them as deeply as I do. Ellowyne and Prudence have been best friends since kindergarten, and they met Rufus when they were in middle school, and that's when he first met Ellowyne and became so starstruck and stuff with her. If you didn't already know this going in, Rufus has been in love with Ellowyne since the first time he ever met her when he was in 8th grade and she was in the 7th. But he just doesn't have the courage to tell her how he feels, and because of that, his feelings go unrequited. Rufus is the handyman at Grandmother Gwendolyn's house, formerly Grandmother Emily, where Ellowyne now lives. He's very kind and sensitive, very, very sweet and down to earth. He can be kind of awkward at times, but whenever he gets uncomfortable, he just treats the situation really like in the best way, like a champ. He makes jokes and stuff out of it that Ellowyne has noted though to be really bad jokes, and this was noted in her therapy session 160 diary entry, which is about Rufus, by the way, so I'm going to be talking about that one a lot. And Ellowyne is even noted that some of his jokes make her laugh, which is an incredible feat, by the way. He's simple, down to earth, and super, super nice. I noted again, just to not to exaggerate, but just to really show how nice he is, because like anytime any of the characters talk about him, they just talk about how nice he is, so I just want to make sure that's very clear. He loves to help people, especially Ellowyne. Rufus expresses his feelings for Ellowyne through countless love letters and poems, which sadly, for some reason, never get sent. Definitely a hopeless romantic, a sweetheart, and kind of a dork, but in the cutest way. I really like Rufus's character, if it's not already obvious, and I really wish more guys or characters like him were made into dolls, but so thankful we had Mr. Rutter, though. I think a misconception a lot of people have about Rufus is that Ellowyne just sees Rufus as a friend, because the first Rufus doll was called Unrequited, and for some reason it seems a lot of people took that and ran with it kind of, and came to the conclusion that story-wise Ellowyne was just like, love you as a friend buddy, but nothing else. Most people I've talked to seem to take it that way, but from everything I've found, that's not true, and there's nothing to really even suggest it. Okay, so a few weeks ago, I looked up what the definition of unrequited is, and I wanted to put it in my own words, and it's essentially like a feeling of where you have romantic feelings for someone, and that other person just does not return them, and yeah, I feel like it was pretty self-explanatory. I just wanted to give a definition for anyone who's unsure. And, I mean, yeah, without really knowing any more of the storyline, that would lead someone to believe that Ellowyne just doesn't share Rufus's feelings because the doll was called Unrequited. But you see, his love isn't unrequited because she doesn't like him back. His love is unrequited because she doesn't know that he likes her. He's never told her how he feels, and I really don't think that she knows. And I know a lot of people say stuff like, well, he makes his affections really clear by like bringing her gifts, happily helping her with little jobs and stuff, and telling her jokes and stuff. So she most definitely has picked up on the way he feels, and if she felt the same way, she would tell him, but she hasn't, so she must not like him back. But to that I say, do you think she can read minds? And if you say, his actions definitely show his feelings, she picked up on them, she just didn't want to embarrass him or hurt his feelings, people pick up on that kind of stuff. To that I'll say, I'm autistic, which causes many people, not all of them, to struggle with picking up on social cues. I'm part of that demographic, and you don't want to make this argument with me. And if you're like, well, Ellowyne isn't autistic, I'll say that's maybe true, but even non-autistic people can't read minds. I think there's a pretty good chance she just really doesn't know the way he feels, and if anything, she's confused by his actions. She has chronic ennui, for crying out loud, and just really seems to be kind of stuck in a cloud and just trying to figure out her own thoughts and stuff, and I really think she's so caught up in that, she hasn't even realized the way he feels. Plus, I mean, she just too reads as an anxious person who most likely has low self-esteem, especially if you're reading the earlier diary entries from 2006 to 2008. So when, you're like that, it can be really hard to pick up on people who have positive feelings for you, especially romantic ones. Especially if you may or may not, maybe kind of sort of have a tiny bit of a crush on them too. So that's that there. I wanted to go ahead and get that out of the way because that will make things a lot more clear as we move on in this video essay. But anyway, back to the shared values topic. Both Ellowyne and Rufus are very kind, sentimental people. They both deeply care about their friends, with Ellowyne still showing up and being a good friend despite her issues and ennui, and Rufus being so helpful and kind to everyone. The best example of Ellowyne being a good friend I have is actually the same one I used in my iceberg video, and that's when Ellowyne first met Lizette and the girls were walking home together from a get-together with their friends. Lizette, our bird-loving girly, was doing some serious info dumping on Ellowyne, and instead of zoning out like honestly lots of people would or changing the subject, Ellowyne just let her talk away and didn't even mind and really listened too, which is incredible behavior for anyone. And when you take into account how much like Ellowyne struggles with boredom and all that, I think that especially shows something for her to do that. And we don't necessarily get any examples of Ellowyne doing anything like this for Rufus necessarily, but we know that she's like this in general. And I don't know, maybe she has done something like that for Rufus. It's just lost media or something. We don't know for sure yet. There's still definitely some lost media out there, but we do know for sure one thing. He is one of her absolute best friends, one of her longest time friends too, and we know she takes being a good friend very seriously. Topic 2. Choose to see one another beyond looks or emotional struggles. For this part of the video, I've got to address the elephant in the room. I'll go get it. We gotta go upstairs for this. Gotta scoot by my desk so I don't knock anyone over. I worked way too hard on them to knock them over. I got the elephant, but I realized I don't think this elephant was what I was talking about when I wrote address the elephant in the room on my script. So, sorry Ellie, but you can sit on my bed while I film. Okay, well, that was kind of embarrassing, but I mean, let's talk about the real elephant in the room. How am I going to do this? So when I was doing lots of research for my Ellowyne iceberg back in the fall, and then when I finished that and learned there was even more lost media and more things to look for, I really dove into the fandom side of Ellowyne, both in the English language, and I actually found Ellowyne content in so many different languages, and I found lots of fan content and pages and stuff that were no longer available on the Wayback Machine, and I noticed a trend, and this is still true to this day, but it's kind of different-ish back in the day, but kind of sorta. But I've noticed that you can find quite a high number of questionable comments about Rufus, and like 99% of these comments are just about his appearance. Across many different platforms, many different time frames, and in many different languages, there's like the exact same comments. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, this is like the third time I've tried to record this part of the video, as it's hard to get my point across without like just coming off the wrong way or getting like just not saying it right. So part of this is because I had to dive extremely deep into the like fandom side of Ellowyne to even come across this stuff. And I feel like if you haven't seen a lot of this stuff, you probably wouldn't even know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to do my best to explain it, but I may not be perfect. But many, but certainly not all Ellowyne collectors are not the biggest fan of Rufus, I've learned. And it's always these people who just say these like weird things about him, and they just say that he's like not handsome enough. And if that's what you like go for in your collecting, that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, there's lots of dolls I feel like that come out that we want to add so many to our collections, and we all have limited time, space, and money and shelf room. But I mean, Rufus, I know a lot of people love him still. I'm one of them. But I mean, he was always supposed to be the more like cutesy, less handsome, dorky, like sweet guy. So I know that's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's completely fine. Their glass of sweet tea, I guess you can say. We have to keep the country vibes going. And there's just really nothing wrong with that at all, or like wishing he like looked different or anything like that. But I've also seen some comments about this that come off weird or honestly just mean-spirited. Many of which though are older comments, and some of those older comments are also ones I had to translate into other languages. So clearly that's going to muddy the translation some. So take this stuff with a grain of salt. But I have come across some comments that pretty much just, instead of just like talking about not liking the doll, honestly say things that are more like Rufus isn't good enough for Ellowyne, or Ellowyne wouldn't go for someone like him. And they're not just like talking about like their personal collection, and I know they're talking about like their storyline or whatever, but I also think just when you're saying something like that, you have to be really careful, because if not, it can come off reading and come across a certain way or come off mean-spirited. And I saw enough of these that it kind of started to rub me the wrong way or make me feel uncomfortable. And I really feel like no one meant it like this at all, and I think they were just having fun with their dolls and didn't really realize the way it came across. And I mean, when you probably have like context missing or language barrier stuff, and I'm new here. This was like 15 years ago. So, I mean, definitely stuff changes. I don't know. A lot of this stuff was like websites I recovered and things too. But I'm not trying to in any way at all be like, oh, you shouldn't say that. You shouldn't do that. No. I'm just simply noting an interesting phenomenon that I saw and something that kind of made me think. And I was like, hey, this is something that I feel like might go good in this video essay, as this topic was already going to be something that I was going to talk about. So I just wanted to say that and give you guys some context if you don't know what I'm talking about. And yeah. Generally speaking, you can definitely like any doll, you like not like any dolls you not like, and talk about them. But just remember, whenever you're talking about dolls, I do ask that you generally be careful, as you could accidentally hurt real people's like feelings, because a lot of the times we relate to dolls that we feel like are like us, whether that be like appearances, aesthetics, or even some type of storyline we relate to, so you can unintentionally hurt someone's feelings. So just always keep that in mind. I've personally had a friend who told me about this before, so I wanted to note that here. But yeah, I honestly think, to me, probably the weirdest thing about these comments is actually how detached from Ellowyne Wilde herself's actual views and values and beliefs these actually are. Ellowyne has always been portrayed as someone who is accepting and kind. She may not always come off this way, but she is not the kind of person to judge someone for superficial reasons, like, at all. She's disgusted by meanness and pettiness, all of the meanness and pettiness in the world, like her cousin Amber often treats her. And we actually learn in the missing diary entries, well, the ones I found, the 2006-2008 ones, actually, I didn't find them. A friend on Facebook actually told me about them, and I was like, oh my goodness, this has been like the greatest thing ever. I love these. They're honestly even more fun than the other ones I found. But one of the things we learn is that Ellowyne and Amber are actually cousins, and that blows my mind. But Ellowyne just wants people to be themselves and not really to have to worry about being judged. Ellowyne is not the kind of person to even find looks be all that important in the first place, so she's just always been much more interested about someone's heart and soul. Besides, I mean, even if Ellowyne did get with like some super handsome guy, I'm sure she would get bored with appearances quickly anyway. So what I wonder about all of this, like when I was reading those comments, is knowing Ellowyne's personality and stuff, and if we're talking about if Ellowyne and Rufus should canonically be together, not our own stories, but canonically, why does Rufus's looks come up so much then? Specifically when we're talking about Ellowyne as a character. So that's just one thing I wanted to note. I mean, real love is about choosing someone for who they are, and really something like that shouldn't matter in the first place. And I know this is gonna be especially true for Ellowyne, so I read some of these and I'm like, why, y'all? Another funny thing though about the Ellowyne is too pretty for Rufus argument is that these same degrading logics and rules and stuff that people say can actually be applied to Ellowyne too. The same way some people say Rufus isn't good enough for Ellowyne because of the way he looks, others, or these same judgmental people, could argue just as well Ellowyne isn't good enough for him because of her ennui and emotional issues. Ellowyne could easily be written off as someone who's too emotional or deep, too much trouble and not enough fun. Just smile, fix all your problems. Those people. Some people would tell her she's too young, shake it off, you're too young to be depressed. And yes, they would still say this despite the fact that she clearly has lots of family trauma, family problems, and I mean, she's still coping from losing her mom and grandfather. And she has chronic ennui, for crying out loud, but still, a lot of people would just judge her or write her off for reasons like this, and that's sad and it sucks, but it happens. I've had people write me off because of my special needs and autism and being sad before, and that sucks. Although generally I'm a pretty happy person. With OCD and stuff, you can get down and it really sucks. And I mean, a lot of people I feel like would judge Ellowyne harder for this, probably especially back in the early 2000s. We'll talk more about why this sticks with me so much later, but ultimately, I'll say if someone writes you off for stupid reasons like that, they suck, and honey, you don't need them in the first place. Love is about choosing to love your partner despite their flaws, challenges, and weaknesses. The key is to find a partner who sees the things about you that others may see as weaknesses, or even you may see as weaknesses, as strengths, or at least things that you can work on together. Rufus is a sweet and sensitive guy himself, so I really imagine he probably won't mind Ellowyne's emotional issues. It's never been anything he's noted, and he seems to love her for who she is, so I think she got pretty lucky with that. Ellowyne's sentimental and emotional ways go together actually quite well with Rufus's kindness and sensitiveness. He's deep and sentimental too, but probably the best hopeless romantic guy doll character, like, ever made in my opinion, and I think Rufus is honestly probably Ellowyne's dream guy, knowing all of this stuff. She just hasn't noticed it yet, or maybe hasn't even mentioned it to herself. We get a lot of mentions of Rufus in Ellowyne's journal entries, which we can use actually to back this stuff up, but first let's look at one of her poems. In Ellowyne's poem, Somewhere Under the Rainbow, that came with the Ellowyne Wilde doll, Somewhere Under the Rainbow, it reads, "Somewhere under the rainbow, I'll meet a man who will look at me and understand. With a knowing smile and gentle soul, my life will be good. Well, at least that's what I'm told." Ellowyne isn't longing for someone who's handsome or fun necessarily, but she's much more interested in just finding someone who understands her and sees her for her. Someone who's kind. Someone to take time to really get to know her in all her layers. Someone to love her for her. One thing that's important with Ellowyne and Rufus, and I haven't really seen too many people falling into this trap, but it's important to remember that Ellowyne is struggling and has a lot going on. A relationship, if done right with someone who's willing to take into consideration her needs and limitations, could be really good for her. But we also must stress, a man or a relationship will not be able to fix Ellowyne. Only time, growth, and healing can. Sometimes it can be easy, though, to tell ourselves, if only I had a partner, if only I had a boyfriend or a girlfriend, my problems would be gone, but real love and healthy relationships do not work that way. Whether she fully knows it or not, Rufus could be this man. He's accepting of her ennui, and he knows her struggles. He's patient. Maybe partially why he doesn't tell her the way he feels is because he doesn't want to overwhelm her. It's because of his own anxiety and awkwardness too, though. I mean, people with ennui, especially with chronic ennui, need time and space. Ellowyne hasn't even noticed Rufus's feelings for her, and straight up believes Prudence is crazy for telling her this. In her therapy session 158, Prudence Moody, Ellowyne's talking with Dr. Bantam about her best friend Prudence, and Ellowyne's talking about how that Prudence is just such a good friend and she's always trying to cheer her up and stuff. She also tells us that Prudence thinks that Rufus likes her, and Ellowyne just cannot see this. The therapy session says, "Rufus is just a great friend. I've known him for years, but Prudence thinks he likes me. I know he likes me, but I mean, like, for a girlfriend or something. I think he's too nice to like someone like me." Then we have in parentheses, Dr. Bantam just hates when I say things like that. In parentheses. Not only does Ellowyne really struggle to believe that Rufus could have feelings for her, despite all of the things that we were talking about before that he does, but Ellowyne also too struggles to believe that anyone could like her, period. Like, and actually our therapy session before that, therapy session 157, also called Prudence, Ellowyne talks about Valentine's Day and an interesting thing that happened. A giant bouquet of edible flowers shows up at her front door, and Ellowyne tells the person who delivered them that it must have been a mistake, as no one could bring her flowers, and the guy's like, "No ma'am, sorry, it's for you," and Ellowyne comes to the conclusion that there's no way no one could have sent her flowers, and they must be for her grandmother. And then poor Ello cries herself to sleep, because she just really cannot believe that they're from her and for her, and it just really breaks her heart that her grandma wasn't there to enjoy these flowers. And we all know they were from Rufus. I mean, come on, who else would have done this? I mean, really. And we have this quote that I think really too even more shows how Ellowyne feels and how that she just cannot believe anyone can like her, which is honestly sad and relatable kind of for some people, but this is our quote we have. "The next day, both Prudence and Rufus stopped by, and I told them about the flowers. Prudence is always so supportive, and she said that maybe the flowers had been for me. That's just ridiculous, and I told her so. She gets frustrated with me. Rufus seemed uncomfortable with the whole conversation. He's so sweet, but sometimes I just don't understand him." Ellowyne and Dr. Bantam also talked about Rufus in therapy session 160, like we already talked about earlier, and Dr. Bantam asked Ellowyne if she would ever ask Rufus if he does have feelings for her, and Ellowyne just is like, no, and just says she just could not. With Ellowyne being too self-conscious or nervous or worried it would wreck their friendship to ask Rufus how he feels or whatever reason she comes to for this, it really only reinforces the cycle that the two of them are in. And with Rufus writing Ellowyne love letters and him saying stuff like he'll wait forever, he wants her so bad and is willing to wait however long it takes, knowing that they'll face many challenges despite of her ennui, but this never changes his mind. He just keeps going it. Topic 3. It's implied. Not only would Ellowyne and Rufus make a great couple, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty hint hint, nudge nudge, wink wink that they both like each other. I mean, he was the male doll that was made for her line, and the only one for most of the run. He's had a crush on her since forever. He's the love interest character, and you do have to read between the lines, but there is a lot of evidence that she does like him back, or at the very bare minimum, cares very deeply about him as a very close friend. For starters, if she really didn't have feelings for him back, or at least didn't question it, why would every time someone tell her they believe Rufus likes her, she just shut down and denies thought that he could have feelings for her? She says she only thinks of him as a friend, but she always says there's no way he sees her as more than that. Here's an exact quote from this from Therapy Session 160 Rufus when Ellowyne was talking to Dr. Bantam. She asked if there was anything more than friendship to our relationship. I think I may have blushed for the first time I can remember, but shook my head no. I mean, I like him and all, but I'm sure he doesn't think of me like that. See, she shakes her head no, and instead of writing about her not seeing him that way or maybe why, she writes about him probably not liking her. Plus, the bare mention of this made her blush. Right after that, she also writes, Dr. Bantam asked if I ever asked him, but really, I couldn't even imagine. We're just friends. This speaks volumes. She doesn't talk about her not seeing Rufus as a potential partner. She only writes about how unlikely she thinks it would be that he would like her. Dr. Bantam isn't the only one who thinks Rufus has feelings for Ellowyne, of course, as earlier we looked at some examples of Prudence telling Ello this as well. I imagine it's probably pretty obvious to everyone except Ellowyne herself. Ellowyne just cannot imagine Rufus liking her. She never rejects him, ever, or brings up anything about him that gives her the ick or anything in any way. She never picks up on his flirting, and I'm pretty sure has no idea that he has romantic feelings for her. She does wonder what some of his actions mean though sometimes, but ultimately tells herself there's no way she could ever ask him about it or that he could ever like her. Despite her always saying they're just friends and such, there really seems to be no evidence that she didn't like him, or at least wouldn't give him a chance if he told her the way he feels. The nervousness and denial in her responses, if anything, backs up my theory that she likes him, just won't admit it, maybe even to herself, and just refuses to pay her feelings any mind, because she just really can't imagine him liking her. Some of her actions also demonstrate her liking him more than a nothing but friends type of way. In the Christmas 2011 diary entry, Ellowyne thanks all her friends for her gifts, and unlike anyone else, hugs Rufus, then tells him thank you, which did make him blush, by the way, which was confusing to our girl, but we know that Dr. Bantam smiled about this. It's then that we see her in the 2012 diary entry, I believe which was from November, wonder if she does in fact have feelings for her friend. That diary is super crazy, by the way. It's definitely very wild, pun intended. And here's a conversation of Ellowyne talking with Dr. Bantam. You mean Amber and Rufus are an item? Oh dear, I didn't see that one coming. I slumped down in my chair. No one saw that coming. Right after that, Rufus turned bright red. He was always a little shy around me, and I always thought we were just friends and all. I don't know. Then Amber just said, hey Rufus, let's go down to Fisherman's Door for some ice cream. And they left. He didn't even say anything to me, or Lizette, or Prue. Ellowyne is clearly upset, and Dr. Bantam really doesn't have anything comforting to say to her, and Ellowyne just ends up leaving. I think her therapy appointment was over, but I can't entirely remember. She just sends Ellowyne on her way, and now she's even more down and confused. Ellowyne later writes this, and so I got up and left, and walked home alone, wondering whether I should have even told Dr. B about Rufus and Amber. She seemed almost more upset about it than I did. And honestly, I wondered why I was so upset about the whole thing anyway. Maybe Dr. B is right. I really do have feelings for Rufus after all. Or maybe it's just something a fun Zumba class with Prue wouldn't cure. I don't know, Ello. I really don't know. I mean, I talked about it before my iceberg video. I think Dr. Banto might be a bit too involved in thinking Ellowyne and Rufus would be a good couple. I don't know. We don't really get enough to know, but it's just a theory. Maybe it's just the way I'm reading it, but I'm pretty sure she had to go home and hit the teapot pretty hard after this session right here. But, I mean, Ellowyne sure does have a lot of going back and forth about her and Rufus and wondering if she likes him or not. And I mean, this is totally normal, especially at their age, because I think they're like, what, 15, 16 here? And honestly, too, she's probably a bit worried for Rufus, as Amber is Amber and will most likely break his heart if this is not just some joke in the first place. Kind of have the feeling that Rufus likes to make jokes, but he's not always aware if he's being the one being joked to. I really feel like Amber does not actually have feelings for him, as she's just more likely trying to be mean to Ello. Probably she's just jealous of the attention that Rufus gives her, or maybe she's even trying to be mean to him too. We don't know about Amber, and I mean, I know somewhere it said that, you know, like, some days she's nice, some days she's not, but I never see this girl being nice. She's always mean. And I mean, the thing is with Amber and Rufus, even if she did care about him, or they were even talking, she shouldn't just come up and kiss him in public. We know he gets embarrassed easily, and especially to do this in front of Ellowyne, knowing how much he likes her, is just really mean. And I mean, come on, girl. This is some real high school drama, and this would definitely have me stressed and confused too, so I really feel for Ellowyne here. I'm sure after the Amber just randomly coming up and kissing him event, Rufus has been on Ellowyne's mind more after this, but she still says the same old things. In the 2013 Halloween diary entry, Ella was telling us about everyone's Halloween costumes, and we get this quote. But the best is how Prue helped Rufus dress up as Frankenstein. He looks really scary and, well, maybe a little cute. He's such a nice friend. See, she compliments him, talks about how much she likes him and stuff, like she's done before, then it will always add something about them just being friends. In 2014, we get our very last diary entry where we meet Pin, the other love interest for Ellowyne. I promised we would come back to him, so you can now remove the pin from Pin that we had pinned into Pin. Anyway, Pin is also a really cute character. He's very cute according to our girls, and we know that he's helping Freddy, Ellowyne's little brother, who has a pyromaniac compulsion. We only get to see Pin in one diary entry, so he's kind of mysterious, and I generally like him as a character, and he comes across as a very nice young man. I just wish we got to know him more because, like I said, we don't know too much about him. He doesn't even have a last name. We don't know how old he is, but Ellowyne notes that he has to be like at least 23, but in my headcanon, Pin is a college freshman or sophomore studying psychology around the San Francisco area, and he is going to get with Amber. Like Rufus, Pin is going to see Amber despite her own emotional struggles and just really see her despite her issues as Amber starts to figure herself out, and, you know, after Pin recovers from the events of that Halloween party that Amber crashed. I have a whole story about them I'm also working on. I love them, but nothing... Ellowyne and Rufus, I'm obsessed with them, but I do really like Amber and Pin too. Ellowyne is attracted to Pin and thinks he's really handsome and such, so obviously Ellowyne and Pin are a popular pairing or ship. Plus, he was the only other guy doll character made for her line, so I mean, there's that too that's going to make you pretty popular in the shipping wars. It's pretty much a Rufus versus Pin thing, and we never get an official answer of who Ellowyne picks, but in the 2021 VDC, which stands for Virtual Doll Convention, interview with Robert Tonner, when asked this question of who really won Ellowyne's heart, Rufus or Pin, Robert Tonner says this: I don't think anything's been settled. Sure, Pin's better looking than Rufus, but has anyone ever been as nice to Ellowyne as Rufus has? But I'm not taking sides. And haha, I mean, I beg to differ. As you've probably heard if you watched my iceberg video, I've heard from many people, and this just honestly becomes more true the more I look into it. Robert Tonner really likes Rufus, and he also talked in an episode of the Doll podcast back in 2021 with Louisa Maxwell. They're talking about Ellowyne, and Robert, I don't remember the entire context, but Robert said that Ellowyne definitely hasn't forgotten about him, so I mean, there's that. Honestly, I really love the Pin versus Rufus thing. I think it's fun, and it helps keep discussion alive for people who like to talk about this stuff, but I mean, honestly, if Ellowyne does end up officially getting with someone, I really don't see how it could be anyone other than Rufus. He has loved her for the longest time. A really sweet classic but unique trope when it comes to these two. He loves and accepts her despite her ennui. He loves her, ennui and all, and shows up as her biggest fan. I really hope one day she realizes him to be her somewhere under the rainbow man, because I definitely think he is. Also, real quick before we move on to the conclusion, I wanted to say that a few people I've talked to have told me they believe Ellowyne and Rufus do get together, and Ellowyne's journal entry of when she first met Nema and the little story for the pedal pusher doll are what implies this. And honestly, I really do see this, and I agree. Of course, it's still not official, but I mean, yeah, this is like pretty good evidence right here. So, in the journal entry where Ellowyne meets Nema, Ellowyne starts out meeting her new friend and doesn't go too well. She kind of has some bad luck as she's late for her lunch plans, which isn't honestly too out of the ordinary for her. And then she accidentally overshares about her life and stuff while she's there, which is awkward. And that is kind of out of character for her. Totally in character enough, but kind of abnormal for her, which makes it sad that this happened. The girls then meet again at a charity event Ellowyne is filling in for her grandmother at. Her and Rufus go together, and things are going really good, but then Ellowyne bursts into tears when she sees her and Nema are wearing the same gown and runs off in tears. Our sweet Rufus chases after her and clears up things with Nema. Then Ello gets annoyed when Rufus talks about how pretty Nema is. Then the diary entry ends with a sad Ellowyne wondering if her and Nema can be friends. But newsflash for you, Ello, y'all do become friends, so yay. Nema's a very nice girl, you just had some bad luck at first. And then for the pedal pusher story, Ellowyne says, quote, Rufus wanted us to meet an acquaintance of his for dinner, end quote. And the language here just really comes off as a couple vibe to me, and even more so if you read the whole thing together and then kind of take all this into a context when you read the stories that came out at that time. I mean, Rufus isn't even mentioned in the 2023 diary entries and stuff, so that's one thing, but I mean, this is some pretty good evidence to add to my case here. We've reached the conclusion, and now it's time to talk about my closing thoughts and why Ellowyne and Rufus, the ship of them, Eliphas, means so much to me. I've been looking for an opportunity to make this video a video about Ellowyne and Rufus in a video essay format for a while now. And I really thought with today being Valentine's and all, it really is the perfect day to do so. I wonder what things Rufus has planned for Ellowyne today, and if maybe by some miracle he can finally tell her the way he feels. We know he's tried on Valentine's before in the past, like in that diary entry we looked at a bit earlier. And I mean, this year is Ellowyne's 20th anniversary, and that means Rufus has been crushing on Ellowyne for 27 years at this point. If he sends her flowers though, I at least hope he signs them this time. I love Ellowyne and Rufus because I think these dolls are incredible and oh so beautiful and just so different than a lot of other dolls, but I also really love them because I really connect to their characters. I'm a sucker for any kind of romance story where one character has a crush on another, but they just can't tell the other person for whatever reason, and it's so will they, won't they, and it's just a lot of fun. I love so much that Rufus is the love interest character for Ellowyne. I mean, I absolutely love that he's such a sweetheart and a bit of a dork because, I mean, dorky guys are the best. I often go for dorky guys myself. I'm a huge freaking dork if you hadn't, picked that up already. As much as I wish Ellowyne and Rufus were officially a couple, I do also like that the story realistically shows the confusion and maybe even a little anxiety Ellowyne, or honestly any girl in her situation, could face around trying to figure out and understand Rufus's feelings. It really is a shame neither one of them took the courage to talk together. Both are struggling to do this for their own reasons. Ultimately, Ellowyne and Rufus are just two young adults who are confused, lost, and scared about their feelings. And a lot of us know, at the time of my recording this, Ellowyne hasn't really gotten story updates since 2023, so we don't know how Ellowyne and Rufus's story officially ends, or, I mean, I don't know, it could be far from the ending, but we don't have any updates since the last thing we know about Rufus was those diary entries I talked about a minute ago, and whether this be for better or worse, we don't know what's happening. And being as into the story as I am, which you know because it takes dedication to make a video like this, not only all the research in the iceberg video I made, you know I love Rufus a lot. You know I love this ship. I really want to know if Ellowyne picks him or not, and I also am really interested to find out how Rufus told her his feelings, or if their friends helped them out, or if Ellowyne worked up the courage to, talk to him about it. I love these characters on their own because I think they're such, unique and honestly really relatable to me. I mean, especially for characters that are dolls, and I love them on their own, but I really love them as a couple. I really hope Rachel or someone through the VDC continues Ellowyne's story, finally giving us more Ellowyne stories and maybe some more Rufus stories as well. Well, stories that have Rufus in them, Or, Robert Tonner himself, he could write some stuff for us or continue some stories. That would be super cool. Like, of course, I would absolutely love to see Rufus as a doll again, of course, but even if he could only come back as a character in Ellowyne's stories, even if they got together and he was never made as a doll again, I think that would be so cool. It would make so many people so happy because you can still get a Rufus doll on the secondhand market. It's not like you can't obtain one. And honestly, even if we never see him in doll form again, that would be okay with me. But I do really, really hope that we do see him in doll form again. And even more than that, I really hope that they get together. But I think they should bring Rufus back to Ellowyne's stories, as he's honestly just as important of a character as Prudence, as we actually meet Rufus. We meet Rufus and Prudence actually in the same paragraph in Ellowyne's first ever diary entry, but we actually are introduced to Rufus before Prudence. He's a very important friend to her, and I really think he has a place in her diary entries. Whether they end up being, a couple officially or not, they still can be very good friends, and I honestly think, knowing their friendship, if Rufus's feelings really are unrequited, I think it's important to show how these young adults can still be close friends, and Rufus confessing his feelings doesn't wreck a friendship that these two obviously care a lot about. I mean, let's be honest. Ellowyne and Rufus are hands down the coolest doll couple ever. I mean, especially when it comes to quirky dolls, like I said before, I relate to them a lot, and they're really special to me. I relate to Ellowyne's struggles and how difficult it can be for her to, I feel like I talked about before, I feel like she's kind of easily misunderstood, and I love how emotional she is because, girlie, I get ya. And I love that Rufus is so super kind, yet awkward. And I just really relate to this couple, and I can see myself in both of them, and I really, really love their love dynamic, and thinking that, just their fear probably of thinking that they're not good enough. We know for sure this is Ellowyne's issue, and this is an insecurity I've had myself in the past, and I know lots of other folks on the spectrum have as well. Not all of us, of course, but I relate to that. That's one of the reasons I relate to them, and I just love so much how Rufus just keeps pining after Ellowyne and trying to, get her affections or get her to at least notice that he's flirting with her, and he does this despite knowing that she has chronic ennui and emotional issues, and he just goes out of his way to be super kind for her. And honestly, as we've seen in some other diary entries, look out for her too. I mean, he's just a super kind of dorkable man, and being a girl with kind of similar issues myself, I really relate to stories like this, like my favorite romances ever. And I mean, Ellowyne is far from the only pretty girl Rufus has to admire. I mean, they have a pretty good friend group, and they're all beautiful too. But despite this, and knowing all of Ellowyne's, struggles and things that are hard for her, Rufus never gives up on her and keeps being super kind to her and trying to win her affections, even if he knows he's in it for the long haul, because it can definitely take a bit. And I really feel like he would be super accommodating to her and would really be willing to make the relationship work. And like I said, he's just a sweet character. Really such a sweet guy. My favorite trope ever. Plus he's quirky, and I mean, honestly, Rufus is kind of different himself. So I mean, I relate to them both, and I love this kind of romance story. I mean, this isn't a romance novel, but I read this like it's a romance novel, and it's just peak. There's no other way of putting it. I love them so much. One of the beauties of dolls, and especially the side of the doll community that I spend a lot of my time in, is that with dolls, you can come up with whatever storyline you see fit for them. Robert Tonner's slogan is "Believe in the power of play," after all. Yeah, Ellowyne and Rufus may not officially have an end to their story, but I'm already over here writing out lots of fan fictions, making photo stories and all that. Having an absolute blast. I've posted some, and I've still got some others I'm working on. This is one of my absolute favorite ways of enjoying my dolls and letting the story I'm obsessed with live on through my skits and little fan fictions. I'm so glad this community is so full of so many other collectors who like to play with their dolls too, through, you know, styling them in different ways, creating photo stories, and other things like that. What ended up getting me so obsessed with Ellowyne in the first place, and especially obsessed with Rufus, was actually a fanfiction blog called Exclusively Ellowyne. And I mean, yes, I already loved Tonner dolls, and I had just gotten my first Ellowyne right before I found her blog. Actually, my first 3, but you know, we don't have to have all the details. And Ellowyne was very quickly becoming my favorite, but with that blog, I got obsessed, especially when I saw how cute that the author portrayed Rufus and their like relationship. I thought it was precious. Those stories are so good, such a good read. I highly recommend them if you haven't read them, or I mean, read them again. They're so much fun. It's actually harder to access that blog now, but I will have a link in my description to it if you do want to check it out. I really love it. And I mean, it was thanks to, you know, my friend Beth's vlog, Exclusively Ellowyne blog, not vlog. Sorry, it's hard to say that. Is actually what got me to really like just dive into collecting the older dolls too. It was just a few weeks after I discovered her blog that I purchased my first ever Rufus doll and bid my heart out on my girl one on eBay because he came up, and now I have 3 and maybe or maybe not another one who's on the way. It's just how collecting works, okay? I got lucky. I'm like speed running collecting Rufus Rutter over here. Really, what makes this community so much fun is the many different ways you can collect and enjoy your dolls, which for me is collecting my favorites, dressing them in many different ways, lots and lots of photography and photo stories, making deep dive videos like this, and fan fictions, and all of that stuff. So far, we've only talked about the canon storyline for Ellowyne and Rufus, but I also think there's a lot to be said about how I've seen some different people interpreting their characters. I won't go too much into other people's interpretations, but I've seen some different things and I think they're great. And for the most part, my storyline for them is very rooted in the canon. If anything, I think I just add a few things, and I think it's very true to the original story, although you definitely don't have to do that, but I do take creative liberty whenever I want to because it's my own little fan version. It's not official. It's a lot of fun. In my storyline, or my headcanon, whatever you want to call it, Rufus is pretty much the same character. I just made him deeper. He has tried so many times to tell Ellowyne the way he feels, but just can't. He has social anxiety in my story and struggles from some pretty bad insecurities, but also the fear that Ellowyne may not reciprocate his feelings and that can make their friendship weird. A friendship he cares about so much would be absolutely devastating, and he knows that it would be devastating to her too. I mean, that's his main friend group. It would be really awkward. This sucks and holds him back, but he still really, really wants a relationship with his dream girl. But he's just stuck in this awful cycle. He sees her almost every day as her handyman and one of her best friends, but he just can't tell her the way he feels. Ellowyne, like the official canon character, is confused by the way Rufus acts, but refuses to ask him why. I add that she's definitely likes him too, for sure. Like, that is obvious in my story, although honestly I think it's pretty obvious in the real story too. But she really feels like there's just no way that he could, you know, like someone like her. She thinks she's just too much and a handful. Maybe one day, when things are better in her life, they'll have a shot. She's so blindsided by her own insecurity that she can't even notice Rufus's actions, which causes her to accidentally send him some pretty mixed messages, which only reinforces his issues. She knows Rufus cares deeply about her, but he's just so kind to everyone, and it would be hard to believe that he feels, you know, any special way about her. She kind of sees the signs, but just ignores them. Because of her own insecurities and stuff. She tries to convince herself that she doesn't have feelings for him, and it would make things easier for her, and she just doesn't want to have to deal with the pain of liking someone who doesn't like her back. For the most part, she's been able to convince herself of this, but really all it's going to take is for Rufus just to crack even a little bit, and seeing that he likes her will definitely make her really realize her feelings and would only reinforce her crush on him, and the two would definitely have a very good relationship together. In my story, I made a little Christmas photo story where Ellowyne and Rufus get together. They're overhearing friends talking about them, and Rufus actually, or at least he tells himself, is about to tell Ellowyne the way he feels, but life had other plans. Of course, Ellowyne is shocked, but then pretty quickly just majorly confesses to herself how much she just really likes him back. They hug and realize they could have been together much sooner if only one of them had spoken up.
But ultimately, who cares? They're together now and they're happy. I just think it's a little questionable that their friends haven't helped them out before, knowing the problems they have. And I mean, aren't they all best friends? And isn't Prudence literally like a psychic? Like, that's the main thing that confuses me on this. Her relationship with Rufus doesn't cure Ellowyne's ennui, though, or her other struggles. As a matter of fact, the relationship even introduces some new ones, but they get through them together. Rufus can't solve Ellowyne's problems, but he can be there for her to support her and hold her hand. Another reason why I like Ellowyne and Rufus so much, and I find them so relatable, is that their ship is built on loving people for who they are and accepting them, and really sticking through loving someone despite it being hard and just getting it through the long haul together. The older I've gotten, the more I've learned love is hard. Dating is hard. Especially when you're autistic and have a masking problem like I do. I feel like a lot of the time fictional stories, especially romantic stories, depict relationships easier than they really are, and only show us the fun parts. We never see Ellowyne and Rufus get together, but we do see how hard Rufus keeps trying for Ellowyne's affections and how his ways accidentally confuse her. The whole flowers on Valentine's things caused Ellowyne to have an entire breakdown and cry herself to sleep. And when she told him in Prudence, Rufus just stood there, and I know in his head his heart was crushed and he was like, dang. And he didn't even know the whole story. They're struggling young folks, and I relate to them. Like I said before, I would really, really love to see Ellowyne and Rufus become official on some level, some way, or even just acknowledge these feelings and come to some type of, talk about them, show that they can still be friends if she doesn't reciprocate his feelings, but she does, though, as was the point of this entire essay. At least that's the way I read into it, and I feel very confident on that. But I'm not perfect. This is just my theories and stuff, by the way, like you already know. I also think one thing really sweet about Ellowyne and Rufus's story is, like I said before, out of all the girls he could have picked, Rufus picked Ellowyne. He's picked her since he was in 8th grade and has never given up. He didn't give up on her because of her ennui, emotional struggles, or horrible inability to pick up his flirting. He said he would wait for her forever. Sure, she's beautiful, but she's not the perfect girlfriend by any means, or perfect girlfriend potential by any means. Still, she's just enough for Rufus, and he never asked her to be anyone she's not or fix herself. He loves her, ennui and all. And as someone who also is a handful to date because of my intrusive thought OCD and autism and all that stuff, and just a few months ago, I found out I'm a serial masker. That's not fun, and it honestly makes dating a lot harder, so I'm working on that. But thank goodness my boyfriend is super sweet and patient and accommodating to me. If someone is not willing to work on you with your problems and accommodate you for things you need and love you despite your challenges and weaknesses, they're not the person for you. Real love is about loving someone for who they are, with the issues they have, working together and wanting what's best for them, ultimately. Not that I know that much about love in the first place, but this is what I do know, and this is something I really do believe in. Ellowyne and Rufus are not the perfect couple, but I really think Ellowyne and Rufus are perfect for each other. The couple have shared values. They choose to see each other beyond the traits of themselves that others might look down on them upon or tell them they're not good enough for. And I'm telling you, like I made this whole video about, if you really read the stories, I honestly don't see how you could read it as anything other than Ellowyne likes him back, just won't admit it to herself because of her own insecurities. I love them so much, and that's why I made this video essay about them. And the thing is, I know I've said this before, but I really want to make sure I make this clear in case like Rachel or Robert Tonner or someone is watching this. It's okay if Ellowyne and Rufus don't end up together. It's okay if Ellowyne gets with Penn or some other character or some character we haven't even met before. And or if Rufus is never brought back. That's okay for me. I just wanted to make a video to talk about why Ellowyne and Rufus mean so much to me and why I really believe that they're a good couple of cute characters. I still definitely ship them, and I honestly imagine that I'm always going to ship them, and they're going to be some of my favorite characters for a very long time, as I honestly love them. They're my favorite characters, period, right now. Like, I love them more than the characters from Stranger Things novels and all types of stuff. I just really love them, and they're kind of the exact thing that I get myself obsessed with, or I find myself getting obsessed with. So someone did something right when creating their characters. They're dolls too, and I love dolls. And with them being dolls, I'll definitely be playing with them, coming up with some cute stories, and photography, dressing, and all of that good doll collecting stuff. I really hope this video can clear any confusion that anyone's over here thinking that Ellowyne doesn't like Rufus back, or at least can give the context of why I believe this so strong, and people can look at this and hopefully they can have a fun time with it too, as Ellowyne really does just have such a fun story. I love Ellowyne and her friends so much, and I'm still working really hard to hopefully recover the remaining Ellowyne lost media. The finding of those 2006 and 2008 diary entries was so huge, and again, shout out to the other Katie who was incredible with helping me with that. Without her, I would not know these existed, and I really hope the remaining diary entries and all the other lost media is still out there somewhere, and there's a lot more Ellowyne lost media y'all don't really know about yet, some of which I talked about today, but I'm going to be making a whole iceberg video about that. I've learned so much about Ellowyne. I'm definitely making an iceberg part 2, and I really hope you come along for that journey as well. Plus, you can't forget about the video in defense of Rufus Rutter. It's been a crazy journey, but it's been so much fun. I've been on this Ellowyne obsession kick for over a year now, and I'm just truly having a blast with it. Really the time of my life. I'm obsessed with these dolls, and like I said, they really made my past year so much more fun, and I'm very grateful to everyone who helped bring them to me, and very grateful to my friend who wrote that fanfiction blog, because without that, I would have not gotten this obsessed. I really hope you liked this video, and I really hope it wasn't too dorky or too serious. I'm not really sure. It's always a slippery slope when you're making these kind of videos, but if you do like this video, I would really appreciate it if you would leave me a comment. Give me a thumbs up in your comment. Tell me if you like Ellowyne and Rufus or not. Tell me if you ship them. Tell me if you're an Ellowyne and Pin shipper. Tell me if you ship them. Tell me if you ship Ellowyne with other characters too. I would love to hear about your ships. Tell me if you've never heard of Ellowyne and Rufus before and you just happen to see this video and you're like, who are these people? That would be really cool too. I do know that a lot of people have actually discovered them through me, which is like incredible. I also too would ask if you would please give me some hype points. I don't really know how to explain how to do that, but I think you have to like scroll past the comment section like 2 or 3 times and you'll see something that says hype. You can hit it. I know there's a limit, but if you have some hype points left for the week or whatever, I don't know when they're redistributed, I would really appreciate it, as I spent a very long time working on this video, and quite frankly, I don't know how well this video is going to do, as it really exists in a very specific niche audience, but it also could easily fit into non-niche audiences, but I know there's no way it's making it there. So this video might only be for like the handful of people who watch it because they really like my content, or maybe they just really like Ellowyne and Rufus. But if you could give me some hype points, it would really help me, as I just really want this video to do good, as I love Ellowyne and Rufus and I want more people to learn about them and see why they're such a good couple, you know. But thank you all for watching this, and I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day.